At 9:17 p.m. on my wedding night, I was standing outside room 814 with my hand on the door handle. Downstairs, 200 people were raising glasses. The jazz trio was playing. My mother was crying happy tears. And through that door, I could hear my brand new wife laughing. Not a nervous laugh, not a champagne laugh, a low, intimate laugh. The kind meant for someone you've never stopped wanting. That man was not me. I had been married for less than 4 hours, and I already knew exactly what I was going to do next. Stay with me. Because this story doesn't end the way you think it does. If you met Savannah Reed, you'd understand why I loved her. She didn't enter rooms. She arrived in them. Chestnut hair, a smile that made strangers feel chosen. She worked in luxury event design and somehow made chaos look glamorous on a ladder hanging crystals 1 minute, negotiating with a florist the next, cold coffee in hand, someone else's crisis in the other. The first time I saw her, she was winning an argument with a hotel manager who'd tried to move a charity gala's seating 2 hours before doors opened. She destroyed him. Then she turned, bumped into me, spilled champagne on my tie, and said, "You look like the kind of man who forgives accidents." I said, "Only if you agree to dinner." She smiled like she'd expected exactly that. That was 5 years ago. I was 31. A logistics guy. Predictable life, predictable schedule. My mother used to say I had the soul of a dependable husband before I ever found a wife. And then I found Savannah. Here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. It rarely comes out of nowhere. It comes like rain through a cracked ceiling. First a stain, then a drip. Then one day the whole thing collapses and everyone asks why you didn't move sooner. Savannah had one unfinished chapter in her life. His name was Travis Kane. They dated on and off for 6 years before me. The kind of man people forgive when he's attractive enough. Charismatic, reckless, endlessly forgiven. He'd cheated on her twice, disappeared for 3 months once, borrowed money he never returned, and still he was the ghost in every room we entered together, not because she talked about him constantly. Because she never talked about him enough. About a year into our relationship, I asked directly, "Are you really over him?" She laughed and kissed my cheek. Ethan, I would rather staple my own hand to a desk than go back to Travis. That answer should have reassured me. Instead, it stayed with me because it was too dramatic for a simple question. 3 months before the wedding, Travis came back. I didn't find out through confession. I found out through inconvenience. Savannah left her laptop open on the kitchen island. I wasn't snooping. I was making coffee. A notification slid across the screen. From Travis Kane. Subject: just once before forever. I stood there until the coffee overflowed onto the counter. When she came back upstairs, I asked as evenly as I could, "Why is Travis emailing you?" I watched her face change. Just a flicker, but enough. She said too quickly, "He reached out after hearing I was getting married." It's nothing. Then why does the subject line say that? She sighed, like I was exhausting her. "Because he's dramatic. You know how he is." She closed the laptop, wrapped her arms around me. "Ethan, please don't make a ghost out of someone I buried a long time ago." That line sounded rehearsed. A week later, my younger sister Nora pulled me aside after a family dinner. She'd seen Savannah at a coffee shop across town with a man. Dark hair, leather jacket, tattoos on his wrist. "Travis, how long were they there?" I asked. 10 minutes. "Maybe? I thought maybe you knew." I didn't. When I confronted Savannah, she admitted it, but barely. It was just closure. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this." Like what? Like a man wondering why his fiancée is secretly meeting her ex? She rolled her eyes. "You're making it uglier than it is." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was defensive, because it was designed to make me feel like the problem. 11 days before the wedding, the message arrived. Unknown number. No greeting. You deserve better than what's coming. 2 photos attached. In the first, Savannah getting into Travis's truck outside a bar. In the second, taken through a restaurant window, he was holding her hand across a table. I called the number immediately. Disconnected, I sat in my car for an hour and made a decision. I stopped being a fiancé. I started being a witness. For the next week and a half, I watched quietly. I noted the errands that ran long, the texts she turned away from me, the way she started showering the second she got home, like she needed to rinse off time itself. Then one night, while she slept, a message synced through a tablet we shared for travel bookings. An app she'd forgotten was connected. Travis, you really gonna do this? Savannah, I have to. Travis, then why are you still texting me at 1 a.m.? Savannah, because you were my first. Travis, I don't want to be your memory salve. I want one more night. I stopped reading. Not because there wasn't more. Because there was already enough to kill something. I sat on the bathroom floor until sunrise. The whole world kept moving, refrigerators hummed, cars passed outside, pipes rattled while something sacred quietly bled out inside my chest. I almost canceled the wedding the next morning. I should have. But heartbreak had done something unexpected. It made me strategic. Here's what most people don't know about getting married in our state. The vows are just a ceremony. The marriage doesn't become legal until the signed license gets filed afterward. Most couples never think about that. It's just paperwork after the magic. I thought about it constantly. If Savannah wanted to perform a marriage while betraying it, fine. I'd let her perform. But I would not let the law make it real. I called my Uncle Graham, who was officiating. I told him just enough of the truth. He went silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, what do you need from me? After the ceremony, don't file anything. Give me the license. You have my word. Then, I called my attorney. Elaine Porter, a woman who terrifies grown men professionally. Keep every message, she told me. Don't destroy evidence. Don't make threats. Don't touch joint funds. And Ethan? Yeah? Don't let humiliation make you reckless. That line saved me. Because humiliation was exactly what I was drowning in. The wedding day arrived bright and perfect, like the universe had a twisted sense of theater. Savannah was stunning. And I hated that truth. Betrayal doesn't make someone less beautiful on sight. She came down the staircase in ivory silk, veil trailing, and every guest in that room inhaled at once, including me. She caught my eyes and smiled with tears in hers. For one terrifying second, I almost broke. I almost begged her to tell me none of it was real. Instead, I stood there and thought, you had every chance. The ceremony was perfect. That was the cruelest part. Her voice shook during the vows. Mine didn't. When I slid the ring onto her finger, people cried. When we kissed, the room erupted, cameras flashing, guests standing, my mother crying into my father's shoulder. And I remember thinking, this is how easy it is to fool a room full of people who love you. At cocktail hour, Savannah disappeared. 27 minutes. I know because I timed it. She told her maid of honor she needed a moment to breathe before the reception entrance. But one of the hotel servers quietly told my best man Brooks that he'd seen a man matching Travis's description ask the front desk for room 814, the courtesy suite reserved under Savannah's maiden name for bridal privacy. Brooks found me near the ballroom doors. His face said everything before his mouth did. She's upstairs. The elevator felt like it was going down, not up. The hallway was empty. The music from the reception floor below was just a murmur. Room 844 was at the end, near a window overlooking the city. I walked toward it on legs that didn't feel connected to my body. And then I heard them. A murmur. A laugh. His voice low, smug, her voice, softer than I had ever heard it with me. Then the line that split the night open. "She'll never know?" he asked, and she answered he. A pause. Then, with a small, careless laugh, she corrected herself. "He'll never know." That should have been the moment I shattered. It was the moment I transformed. Because once the last doubt dies, a strange peace takes its place. I did not open the door. I stepped back, took out my phone, sent my best man 4 words: "Don't stop the music yet." When I returned downstairs, the reception coordinator rushed over. Grand entrance? First dance? Toasts? I smiled so calmly it unnerved even me. "Toasts first," I said. "Then I'd like a few minutes with the mic." Brooks stared at me. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm ready." Savannah came downstairs 9 minutes later, lipstick retouched, veil adjusted. She looked polished enough to fool anyone who hadn't seen her absence as a wound. When she took my arm at the ballroom entrance, her fingers were cool. "You okay?" she whispered. I looked at her. Really looked at her. "I'm perfect." The last lie I ever told her. The doors opened. Everyone cheered. We walked into applause. Our names lit up the projection screen behind the sweetheart table, Ethan and Savannah Cole. Except that wasn't her name. Not anymore. The maid of honor spoke. Beautiful, Brooks kept his toast short because he knew his voice would break if he said too much. Then the DJ handed me the microphone. Every fork went still. Every eye turned. Savannah smiled at me, expecting romance. "I want to thank all of you for being here tonight," I began. My voice was steadier than I felt. "Some of you traveled across the country. Some of you rearranged your lives because you believed you were witnessing the beginning of something sacred." The room was silent. I believed that too. More than anybody. Savannah's smile started to fall. I turned toward her not with cruelty, with clarity. I meant every vow I spoke today. Every single one. I walked into this room ready to love you for the rest of my life. But love and blindness are not the same thing. And loyalty cannot exist where truth does not. Her face drained of color. "Ethan," she whispered. "About an hour ago, while all of you were downstairs celebrating our marriage, Savannah was upstairs with someone from her past. Someone she promised me was over. Someone she chose to be with on the very day she promised me forever." A gasp moved through the ballroom like wind through dry grass. Her father went rigid. Savannah shot to her feet. "Stop, please." "I'm not saying this to humiliate you," I said. "I'm saying it because truth matters. And everyone in this room deserves honesty more than they deserve a performance. It's not what you think, that sentence. The oldest refuge of the guilty. Then tell them," I said quietly. "Tell them where you were." She couldn't. Because truth is simple. Lies need time. I placed an envelope on the table in front of her. Inside, the messages, the photos, and the unfiled marriage license instructions. Her hand hovered over it like it might burn. Then I said the line I'd only rehearsed once alone, in a mirror, because I knew if I practiced it more than that, I'd never survive saying it out loud. The ceremony happened. But the marriage won't. I will not be filing the license. Legally, there is nothing to finalize. Spiritually, there is nothing left to save. The room stopped breathing. Savannah broke not the delicate tears from the ceremony. These were raw, panicked, ugly sobs. "Ethan, please, please don't do this here." I swallowed the lump in my throat so hard it hurt. "You already did." Her father stood. 10 years landing on him in 10 seconds. "Savannah, tell me this isn't true." She just cried harder. That was answer enough. I set the microphone down. Turned to the room one last time. "I'm sorry your love for us was met with this. Please, eat, drink, Stay if you want, leave if you need. None of tonight is your fault." Then I looked at my mother. She was crying openly. And that nearly broke me. Because betrayal never wounds just one person. It splashes onto everyone who believed in your happiness. I stepped away from the table. Savannah reached for my wrist. I froze. Her fingers touched my skin, and for the first time in 5 years I felt absolutely nothing that resembled home. "Ethan, please let me explain." I looked down at her hand until she let go. The woman I loved wouldn't need to. And I walked out. No shouting. No shattered glass. No scene. Just a man leaving the funeral of his own future. Savannah called 12 times that night. I didn't answer once. At midnight her message came through. I made a mistake. A horrible mistake. I thought seeing him one last time would close something in me. I don't love him more. I love you. I just panicked. Please don't let the worst thing I've ever done be the last thing between us. I read it 3 times. Then I understood something almost more devastating than the betrayal itself. She still didn't get it. Because cheating on your wedding day is not a mistake made in a second. It is a chain of permissions. The reply, the secrecy, the meeting, the room, the locked door, the lie after the lie after the lie. By the time the worst thing happens, it has already been happening for weeks. I never replied. 4 days later, she came to my apartment. No makeup. Hair tied back. Eyes swollen past the point where sleep helps. "I'm not here to beg," she said, and it was the first honest thing she'd said in weeks. I know I destroyed that. She told me she'd thought one last meeting with Travis would prove to herself she was choosing me cleanly. That seeing him brought back all the old damage, the old chaos. And instead of running from it, she fell into it. "You didn't fall," I said. "You walked." She closed her eyes like the words hit her physically. I know. Then she asked the question broken people always ask when they finally understand what they've done. "Did you ever really love me?" I laughed once. No humor in it. Enough to marry you even when my instincts were begging me not to. She left her ring on the entry table. I mailed it back to her mother 2 days later. People love clean endings. Real life doesn't give them. There was no magical morning where the pain had packed its bags, just ordinary days made heavier by memory. Returning gifts, canceling plans, deleting photos you can't delete all at once. Learning how to sit in silence without hearing that hallway laugh in your head. I went to therapy. I started running again. I took the honeymoon trip alone, 6 months later, not because it was empowering, but because I refused to let every place we'd planned become haunted forever. I stood on a beach in Maine at sunrise, cold wind cutting through my jacket, and understood something simple at last. Savannah did not ruin my belief in love. She ruined my belief that love, by itself, is enough. It isn't. Love without honesty is theater. Love without loyalty is hunger. Love without truth is just a beautiful lie dressed up in vows. A year later, Brooks asked me if I regretted how I handled it. I thought about the ballroom, the silence, the tears, my mother, her father. Savannah reaching for my wrist like she could still stop the ending after writing it herself. Then I thought about that hallway, about the moment I stood outside room 814 and became someone new. And I answered honestly. No, I regret who she chose to be. I don't regret that I finally chose myself. That's what people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. If you survive it right, it introduces you to your spine. So when people hear this story, they focus on the headline, "My wife cheated on our wedding day," thinking I'd never know. But that's not the real story. The real story is this. I knew enough to walk away before a lie became my life. I loved someone deeply and still refused to let that love excuse what should never be excused. I stood in front of a room full of people with my heart torn open and told the truth anyway. And the coldest, hardest truth of all, I did not lose my wife that night. I discovered I never had one. What I lost was an illusion. What I kept was myself. And in the end, that was always the only plan worth having. Not revenge. Not spectacle. Not cruelty. Just truth. Just dignity. Just the refusal to spend the rest of my life loving someone who could look me in the eyes at the altar, promise forever, and still go upstairs to the man she never really left behind. If this story hit you, share it with someone who needed to hear it today. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.